Greetings, students, and welcome back to our channel Nagin Best Digital Learning. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to do question and answers from the textbooks solved, as well as some NCRT questions of the chapter Ranga's marriage. Now, comment question number 1. Comment on the influence of English, the language, and the way of life on Indian life as reflected in the story. What is narrator's attitude to English? Now, the narrator says that dining the last 10 years, English language has made inroads into Indian countryside. Now, there are many who know English. During the holidays, one comes across them on every street talking in English, right? They bring in English words even while talking in Kannada. The narrator considers it disgraceful. He illustrates his point of view by giving an example. A bundle of firewood was brought at Rama Rao's house. Rama Rao's, now this is, he is giving an example. कहाँ पर जहाँ पर वो women क्या लेके आती है bundle of wood और फिर एक woman थी वो exchange का meaning नहीं जान पाई, right? So Rao's son asked the woman how much he should give her. When she said 4 pice, the boy told her that he did not have any change and asked her to come the next day. The poor woman did not understand the English word change and went away muttering to herself. Thus, the use of English language before a native Kannada speaker caused confusion. Ranga was influenced by English way of life. Like them, he wanted to marry a mature girl and not a young present-day bride. He told the narrator that he would marry when he grew a bit older. Secondly, he wanted to marry a girl he admired. He was not in favor of arranged marriages. This shows the influence of English way of life on modern young educated Indians. Now this is, children, by mistake it is written, it should be modern, okay? Young English educated Indians. The narrator did not approve of that. Now question number 2. Astrologers' perceptions are based more on hearsay and conjecture that what they learn from the study of stars. Comment with the reference to the story. The story presents astrologers in an unfavorable light. The author seems to be having a dig at them through the words of the narrator. The story gives a graph description of how the narrator employs the astrologer to trick an unwilling young man to agree to marry a young girl. He tutors him all that he wants him to say. The narrator took Ranga to the astrologer. The Shastri took out his paraphernalia, that is a book, that talks about future description. Okay, these include 2 sheets of paper, some cauries are the shell, and a book of palmier leaves. He called astrology ancient science. He moved his lips fast as he counted on his fingers. He did some calculations before telling Ranga that he was thinking about a girl. He had the name of something found in the ocean. He assured them that their negotiations would definitely bear fruit. Ranga was impressed by the science of astrology. That evening, the narrator congratulated Shastri for repeating everything he had taught without giving rise to any suspicion. He mocked astrology by saying, "What a marvelous Shastri you are." Sorry, children, it should be you are. Okay. The Shastri did not like it and said that he could have found it out himself from his Shastra. This shows that astrology's perceptions are based more on hearsay and conjecture than what they learn from the study of the stars. Next question is, Indian society has moved a long way from the way the marriage is arranged in the story discussed. In the past, marriages in India were usually arranged by parents and relatives, है ना? जो पुराने जमाने में क्या करते थे, मैरिज कैसे रिलेटेड थे? They were arranged by parents and relatives. The story Ranga's marriage show that the narrators arranges Ranga's marriage with the help of the astrologer. After independence, certain changes have come in the economic social setup of the Indian society. Women empowerment has made women men's comrades and equals and not a mere prisoner confined within the four walls. Women education and access to jobs have changed the attitude of modern males. Sorry, this is not modern, this is modern. Okay, this is modern children. Modern males towards them. A girl is now accepted as a partner in marriage for the worth or qualities rather than dowry. Marriageable young boys and girls have now more say in the choice of partners. Early marriage have been banned legally. The minimum age for marriage for girl is 18 and for boys is 21. By this time they attain physical, emotion and mental maturity. Indian society have certainly moved a long way from the time of arranged marriage, when the formal consent of the bride and the groom has taken for grant and the elders fix it. What kind of person do you think the narrator is? The narrator, Shama, is dark in color. He calls himself a dark piece of oil cake. He is an elderly gentleman. He is keen observer of men and manners. He notices the influence of English, the language, and the way of life on Indian society. He is a purist who is pained at the discriminate use of English words in Kannada conversation. He considers it disgraceful. He does not approve of English custom of love marriage either. He is well-meaning gentleman who has the good of others in his heart. He learns of Ranga's view about marriage from Ranga himself. He is a good judge of human character. He thinks Ranga would make a good husband. The narrator is a good strategist. He cleverly calls Ranga to his home when Ratna is singing a song. He notices Ranga's reaction and interest in her and arouses his curiosity by arranging meeting with the astrologer. First he says that Ratna is married, but then he finds Ranga's deeply interested in her. He confesses that he was wrongly informed. In short, narrator tries his utmost to get the marriage settled. The narrator loves fun and humor. He has the capacity to make others laugh at him. He employs a rambling style and gives many smiles and metaphors to highlight in the literary value of the story. He touches the local color, make the story full of ethnic color and authentic. Now, there are more questions which are short answer question. What does the narrator say about Hosahalli? Hosahalli क्या होता है चिल्ड्रन? उनका विलेज रहता है. तो वो जैसे फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में एक्सप्लेन करता है ना, होसाली विलेज इज द सीन ऑफ एक्शन, है ना, सीन ऑफ एक्शन जहाँ पर ये स्टोरी टेक प्लेस हुई. देर इज नो मेंशन ऑफ इट्स इन जोग्राफी बुक्स रिटन बाय साहिब्स इन इंग्लैंड और इंडियन राइटर्स. तो उनको क्या है, कोई भी जोग्राफी बुक में क्या है, मेंशन नहीं है. नो कार्टोग्राफर, कार्टोग्राफर कौन होते हैं, जो मैप बनाते हैं, हैज़ पुट इट ऑन दी मैप. The narrator highlights its importance by comparing it to the filling of Gabaddu. Gari Gaddubu hai. What is Gari Gabaddu? It is a kind of a sweet. ठीक है, जो होली पे खाया है हमने ना, जो अंदर से बाहर से हार्ड होता है, अंदर से स्वीट होता है. What are two special produce of Hosahalli and in what respect? First is the raw mango. The soreness of its bite is sure to get us straight to the Brahmarandra. ठीक है, the soft part in child's head where skull bones join later. Secondly, speciality is a creeper growing on the water of the village pond. Its flowers are a feast to behold. तो एक creeper है और दूसरा mango है. You can serve afternoon meal to the whole family on its two leaves. What exactly had happened 10 years ago? What important was it then? 10 years ago, there were not many people in the village who knew English, right? The village accountant was the first one who sent his son Ranga to Bangalore to pursue his studies. तो 10 साल पहले इतने ज़्यादा लोग नहीं थे जो कि इंग्लिश पढ़ते थे. तो 10 साल पहले जो रंगा के फादर थे वो कौन थे? अकाउंटेंट थे. उन्होंने अपना बेटा कहाँ भेजा था? बैंगलोर भेजा था ताकि वो फर्दर स्टडीज़ के लिए कर सके. ही वॉज क्वाइट एन इम्पॉर्टेंट It was quite an important event then. The narrator highlighted by saying that village accountant was the first one who had enough courage to send his son to Bangalore to study. So he had enough courage. What happened when Ranga returned to his village from the city of Bangalore? रंगा के साथ क्या हुआ? Ranga's homecoming was a great event. Ranga's homecoming was great event. The crowd smiled around his eye. Smiled means they got together around his eyes to see whether he had changed or not. ये देखने के लिए कि उसने वो change हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ. People were quite excited as the boy was returning home from studying English at Bangalore. Everyone was surprised to see that Ranga was the same, and he had been 6 months ago when he had first left the village. तो सबको सरप्राइज हो, वो तो वही था जो जैसे वो मतलब यहाँ से गया था. Why did the old lady, how did the old lady satisfy herself about Ranga? The old lady ran her hand over Ranga's chest. ठीक है, तो उसने क्या करा? रंगा की चेस्ट को छुआ. She looked into his eyes. और उसने क्या देखा? रंगा की आंखों पर देखा. She was satisfied to find the sacred thread on his body. तो she was very satisfied. Why? She could find the thread. She was happy that he had not lost his caste. तो she was happy कि he is still following his caste. What has happened in disgraceful, believe me, says the narrator. क्या बोलते हैं? What has happened is disgraceful, believe me, says the narrator. What does he refer to? What does he illustrate his point of view? So now the narrator refers to the practice of young persons who during the holidays in village go to talking in English or bring in English words while talking in Kannada. He calls his mixing up of language disgraceful. He gives the example of the use of the English word change to an illiterate person. है ना, जो women आती है. The old lady being asked to come next day went away disgruntled, right? What does the narrator refer to black hole of Calcutta? Why does the narrator refer to the black hole of Calcutta? During the British rule, जब British rule था, 100 of persons were kept inside a सिंगल रूम. तो 100 से ज़्यादा लोग कहाँ रखे जाते थे? सिंगल रूम में. द नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग मोस्ट ऑफ देम वर फाउंड डेड ड्यू टू suffocation. और बहुत सारे लोग वर फाउंड ड्यू टू suffocation. द नरेटर यूजेस द एक्सप्रेशन black hole of Calcutta to suggest the large number of people who had turned out to see Ranga. How did Ranga greet the narrator? In what respect did he differ from the present day boys? Ranga greeted the narrator with full devotion, with full love. ठीक है? He did not fold his hand but also bent low to touch his limb. He not only, sorry, उन्होंने क्या करा, उसने अपने हाथ को जोड़े नहीं बल्कि में उनका feet touch किया. At present day, boy would stand stiff like a pole without joints, keep head towards the sun and jerk his body as if it were either a hand or a walking stick. The narrator, being old-fashioned, did not prove it. Why did Ranga plan to marry and why? When did Ranga plan to marry and why? Ranga did not want to get married at an early age. He wanted to find the right girl. She should be mature enough to understand his love talk. Secondly, he wished to marry a girl he admired. He was against marrying quite young girls who had no manners or were no and who were not careful for their face or figure. What examples did Ranga give to explain the importance of marrying late? Ranga gave 2 examples. So Ranga ने कितने example दिए? 2. An officer about 30 married a young girl about 25. Ranga hoped that they would be able to talk lovingly to each other. The second example is the Dushyant falling in love with Shakuntala, Shakuntala was quite mature. Ranga was just the boy of her, and she the most beautiful bride for him, says the narrator. Who is she? What led narrator to this conclusion? She here stands for Ratna, the niece of Ramarao. She was very pretty girl of 11. ठीक है? Both her parents having being dead, her uncle had brought her home. Being a girl from a big town, she knew how to play the veena and the harmonium. She also had a sweet voice. All these qualities made a suitable bride for a young, educated man like Ranga. How did narrator let Ranga have a glimpse of Ratna? The narrator arranged the meeting very systematically. First, he called Ratna on the pretext of sending buttermilk through her. Then he asked her to sing a song. Meanwhile, Ranga, whom he had sent for, reached the door. He became curious to see the singer. Who became curious? Ranga. ठीक है, वो गाना गाती है तो वो कहाँ पर होगा, थ्रेशोल्ड में रुक जाता है और देखता है who is singing such a beautiful song. His presence at the door blocked the light and Ratna stopped singing abruptly. और जैसे उसने लाइट देखा कि लाइट इज बीइंग रिस्ट्रिक्टेड, वो अपना गाना ख़त्म कर देती है, राइट, और फटाफट वहाँ से फिनिश होके शाइली अंदर चली जाती है. Why did Ranga and Ratna react at their unexpected encounter? How did, Ratna stopped singing abruptly. Abruptly मतलब जल्दी में. On seeing a stranger outside the room, Ranga felt disappointed when the singing stopped. Ratna stood at the distance with her head lowered. Ranga repeatedly glanced at her. He blamed himself for the singing to stop and offered to leave. Ratna was overcome by shyness and ran inside. Ranga inquired about her. How did narrator handle Ranga's inquiries about Ratna? The narrator did not give him a straightforward reply. He said casually that it did not matter to either of them who she was. The narrator was already married and Ranga was not the marrying type. ठीक है? This aroused Ranga's interest and excitement. He expressed the home that she was unmarried. His face showed signs of disappointment on learning that she was married a year ago. Why did the narrator tell Ranga that the girl was married a year ago? The narrator had made up his mind that he would get Ranga's married early. First, he brought Ranga and Ratna face to face to arouse his interest in her. In order to test the strength of emotion, he told Ranga that she was married a year ago. The shriveled face of young man betrayed his feeling. Why did narrator visit the village astrologer? The narrator wanted to exploit the common human weakness, eagerness to know the future. He went to the village astrologer and told him to keep ready to read the stars. He tutored him in all that he wanted the astrologer to say, and he would revisit him with Ranga. In what mental emotion state did the narrator find Ranga? What solution did he offer? And how did Ranga react to it? Ranga seemed to be lost in thoughts. Perhaps he was emotional upset to learn that the girl he had seen that morning was already married. The narrator offered to him to Shastri to learn about stars whether Guru and Shani were favorable for him or not. Ranka accompanied him without any protest. Okay. What? Only this morning? Oh, why was this sentence cut off and by whom? What could have been the likely impact if the speaker had completed the sentence? The narrator got angry when the astrologer, with surprise that he had not seen the former for a longer time. The narrator shouted these words. The astrologer cut his sentence off and completed it in his own way. If he had not done so, the narrator would have ruined their plan by blurting out everything. What, according to the astrologer, was Ranga's cause of worry? How did the name Ratnas crop up? According to astrologer, the cause of Ranga's worry was a girl. She probably had the name of something found in the ocean. When asked if it could be Kamla, the astrologer did not rule out the possibility. She suggested that if it could be Pachi Moss, the astrologer put the counter question: why not pearl or Ratna, the precious stone? Thus, the name Ratna cropped up. There was a surprise on Ranga's face and some happiness. What do you think had caused these feelings? When the narrator learned from the Sastri, the astrologer, that the name of the girl was Ranga, that the name of the girl Ranga was worried about could be Ratna, he was at once reminded of Rama Rao's niece Ratna. He asked the astrologer if there was any chance of the marriage being fixed there. The astrologer gave him a firm assurance. This caused happiness and surprise of Ranga's face. Right? Why did the narrator test the sincerity? How did the narrator test the sincerity of Ranga's feeling about Ratna? The narrator employed the age-old trick temptation of the unattainable. He first mentioned that the girl had been married a year ago. He noticed Ranga's disappointment. Ranga's face fell with the narrator mentioned to the astrologer that Ratna was married. When he was sure of the sincerity of Ranga's feeling about Ratna, he has disclosed that she wasn't married. There's greatness truth in the Shastra when we imagine, says Ranga. What truth does he refer to, and how was he made to admit it? After their visit to Shastri, the narrator disclosed to Ranga and Ratna was not married. He observed that whatever Shastri told him had turned out to be true. Still, he could not believe that Ranga had been thinking of her. He asked Ranga to confirm it. So Ranga firmly admitted the truth that he was talking of her. Why did the narrator tell Shastri about his performance, and how did Shastri react to it? The narrator told Shastri that he repeated everything he had told him without giving rise to any suspicion. He claimed, "What a marvelous Shastri you are." Shastri did not like his berating astrology. He retorted that he could have found out himself from the Shastra. Comment on the ending story of Ranga's marriage. The story has a happy ending. Ranga has been married to Ratna and they have a 3-year old golden boy named Shama. After their well wishers, the narrator, Ratna is 8 months pregnant and about to deliver another boy. Now, children, let us do long question and answer. The best way of getting to know a place is to visit it. Which place does Masti Venkatesha Iyengar refer to? What do you learn about it? What do you, sorry, no is not there, learn about it. Okay. Now, the author refers to Hosahalli, the village of Rangappa, and the narrator. From the narrator's point of view, it is important village of Mysore state. People may not have heard of it, as there is no mention of it in geography books. The place has been ignored both by the British and Indian authors. No cartographer has put it on the map. The raw mangoes from the mango tree in the village are quite sour. Sour means khatte. The extreme potency of the sourness of these mango is ample illustrated by the comment. Just take a bite. The sourness is sure to go straight into your Andhra. The creeper growing in the village pond has beautiful flowers and broad leaves. The latter can serve as plates for serving afternoon meal. The village doctor Gundabhatta also speaks glowing of Hosahalli. What was special about Rangappa? How did the villagers react to it? 10 years ago, there were not many people in Hosahalli village who knew English. Rangappa, the accountant's son, enjoyed a unique distinction. He was the first one to be to be sent to Bangalore to pursue his studies. This was considered an act of courage on the part of his father. It was an important event in the village, a sort of first of its type. Naturally, Ranga's homecoming was a great event. The crowds of the village miled around his high house to see whether he had changed or not. People were quite excited because Ranga had returned home from studying English at Bangalore. An old lady ran her hand over Ranga's chest. She looked into his eyes. She was satisfied to find the sacred thread to his body. She felt happy that he had not lost his caste. People disappeared from the scene once they realized that Ranga had not undergone any material change. Give a brief account of narrator's two meeting with Ranga after the latter returned from Bangalore. What opinion did he form about young man? When Ranga returned home after getting his education in Bangalore, crowds of people collected around his home to see him. The narrator was attracted by the crowd. He too went and stood in the courtyard. Ranga came out with a smile on his face. After everyone had gone, the narrator asked Rangappa how he was. Rangappa noticed him and came near him. He folded his hand and touched the narrator's feet. He said that he was all right and with the narrator's blessing, and the narrator blessed him and wished that he might get married soon. They exchanged some polite, friendly remarks. Then the narrator left. The afternoon when the narrator was resting, Ranga came to his house with a couple of oranges in his hand. The narrator thought that Ranga was generous, considered fellow. He was of the opinion that he would be fine to have him marry, settle down, and be of service of the society. What were Ranga's idea about marriage? Do you find any change in them during the course of the story? Now, Ranga was influenced by English way of life in the matter of village. He was not in favor of arranged marriages of the time where the brides were quite young. He told the narrator that he was getting married just then. He gave two reasons. First, he must find the right girl. He must be mature enough to understand his love talk. A very young girl might take his words spoken in love as words spoken in anger. He gives examples of a 30 years old officer who married a 75-year-old lady and that of a king Dushyant falling in love with Shakuntala. The second reason he gave was that one should marry a girl one loves. During the courses of story, he find a change in Ranga's idea about marriage. Not only is he fascinated by Rama Roy's 11-year-old niece Ratna, he also marries her in the only traditional way of arranged marriages. What steps did narrator take to get Ranga married to Ratna? The narrator was intimate with Ramarao's family. He knew that his niece would be a suitable wife for Ranga. He proceeded systematically. First, he created an opportunity where Ranga might listen to Ratna's song and have a glimpse of her. He arranged his sudden encounter of two strangers at his home. The reaction of two youngsters was an unexpected lines. Ranga felt interested in her. Ratna felt shy, lowered her head, and went to the other room. In order to test her intensity of Ranga's feeling towards Ratna, the narrator said that he had been married a year ago. Ranga looked crestfallen. Then the narrator tutored an astrology and took Ranga to him. Shastri, the astrologer, gave sufficient assurance that there was no hitch in his marriage to a girl whose name was that of something found in the ocean. While returning from Shastri's house, they saw Ratna standing alone in her uncle's house. The narrator went in for a moment and brought the news that Ratna was not married. After asserting the Ranga's views, marriage was settled. What estimate do you form of Ranga? Ranga is a typical South Indian young man whose feet are firmly entrenched in the traditional Indian culture, but head is swayed by the latest acquisition of English language and ways of life. He seemed to have attained marriageable age according to the norms prevalent in the society at that time. The narrator finds him generous and considerate. The young man could rightly access a person's worth and knew when it would be to his advantage to talk to someone. At first, Ranga seemed to be in a favorable of love marriage, marrying a girl of one's choice whom one loved and who would be mature enough to understand love, talk, and reciprocate it. The systematic steps taken by narrator to rope in Rangas to marry Ratna show that the young man was sensitive heart. Ranga's act of naming his golden boy Shama after the dark colored narrator Sham shows his adherence to English custom of naming the child after someone you like. On the whole, Ranga appears to be smart but lovable fellow. Comment on the title, the story Ranga's marriage. The title of the story is quite appropriate and suggestive. It at once sums up the theme of the story. The whole story has one central issue, Ranga's marriage. It begins with Ranga's refusal to marry just then and ends with a blissful married life. All the incident contributes to the central theme, right? The writer has presented working of a young educated Indian minds and heart. He is influenced by the English way of life and customs. He wants to adopt them in his own life as well. The narrator, who is a well wisher, takes deep interest in him and takes active steps to win Ranga away from the fantasy of love marriage. By arousing his interest and fascination in a young girl, Ratna, he makes Ranga agree to marry her. Thus, Ranga, once condition of marriage is fulfilled. He knows that girl and loves her. She does not fulfill the other conditions of being a mature girl in 20. She's just 11 at that time. Write a brief note on the ending story of Ranga's marriage. The ending of the story is superb. Like all the tales of romance, where the heroes and heroine are finally reunited, the caption "and they lived happily ever after" is usually displayed. The writer goes where one step further. He presents Rangas as a happily married life husband, a proud father, and a good member of the joint family. He has 3 years old son, a golden child whom he had named Sham after the narrator to express his love and gratitude to the elderly person. He also learned that Ratna is about to deliver another child, and Ranga's sister had come there with his mother. Okay, they will not only look after the household affairs but Ratna as well. The scene of a toddler putting his arms around the legs of an elderly and later kissing him on the cheek and placing a ring on his tiny little fingers as a birthday gift presents a lovely emotional seal full of tender affection and love. What a happy ending! Thank you, children. And please like, subscribe, and comment on this video.